Hello there. Today is Tuesday, and it's noon, so it's time for Commissioner in the Car. I'm Dustin Zarni, Democratic Elections Commissioner, Onondaga County, and we are in May now. It's May 11th, and that means that we are getting ready for the June 22nd primary. It's almost about 5 weeks away, and that means that absentee ballots have started to go out here in Onondaga County for any eligible voter who is who has already signed up for an absentee, who is eligible to vote in the primaries that are happening in June. And what are those primaries? Well, we have Democrat and Republican mayoral primaries inside the city of Syracuse, Democrat common councilor at large, Democrat school board primaries inside the city of Syracuse. We also have Republican primaries for highway supervisor out in Lysander and in Skaneateles. We have a town councilor Republican primary in Pompey. We have Democratic primaries in the County Ledge 15th and 16th District. 15th is the Valley and going into Gaddis. 16th is the inner city on the southwest side of the city of Syracuse. We also have working families primaries for Salina Town Judge and for County Legislature 5, and a conservative primary in Manlius for Manlius Town Judge. So those are the areas that are having primaries. We have 4 early voting sites that will be opening up. But right now, we're talking about absentees. If you want to get an absentee for the June 21st primary, now's the time to request it. We are starting to send out absentees on a daily basis. And our first batch went out early or late last week. Most people started getting those in the mailboxes over the weekend. And you can track your absentee by going to onvote.net or apply for your absentee by going to onvote.net. And you can apply for your absentee through the state online, and it's the easiest way to do it. You can also go to our absentee page and download a form and mail it in. You cannot do it by phone this year. That was a pandemic-only provision in 2020, and it has not been extended to 2021. So you can still do it by email, you can still do it by online portal, and you can still do it by physically mailing in an application. You also can come down to the Board of Elections. You can also come down to the Board of Elections and drop off your completed ballot. We have our ballot boxes that are out in the lobby. We will have the ballot boxes at the 4 early voting centers for the primary, and of course at every one of the election day polling centers. So that's what's going on for absentee ballots with the June primary. Obviously, things are starting to get heated up, so it's time to start making decisions and casting your vote. So you'll have a slate to vote for in the general election if you are enrolled in a party. And that's, again, another reminder. You must be enrolled in a party to vote in the primary. You have till May 28th to register to vote. If you're not previously registered anywhere in New York State, you can register in any party you want if you are not previously registered and be able to vote in the primary. You can move your address if you've moved. But you cannot change your primary. Well, you can change it, but it won't take effect until after the primary date. So 7 days after the primary. So if you haven't already updated your party enrollment, it is too late to do so. And so that is what I wanted to talk about quickly today, about absentee ballots. But I see there's some questions in the chat on absentee ballots. Bob Andrews asks, when can the first ballot be requested and first cast for primary? You can do it now. It's already been requested. In fact, I don't know if we've received any back. I didn't check that yet. But we've already mailed out ballots, so you can request your for the primary, you can request that ballot now, today. You can cast that ballot now, today. You have up until 7 days before the primary to request a ballot by mail or by portal or by email. You can then do it up until primary day in person. And David asked, has the cutoff date for absentee ballots changed this year? Not yet. There is a bill on the governor's desk that says that the cutoff for requesting would be 15 days, not 7 days. That has not been signed into law yet. It may not be signed into law until after the primary. That may be something for the general. So not yet. It's still 7 days is the law, but you should do it as soon as possible. John Cowlin asked, how do we request a ballot? Well, you can go 3 different ways, as I pointed out, or 4 different ways. The first way is you can come down in person to the Board of Elections, 1000 Erie Boulevard West. We're open from 8:30 to 4:30, and you can request a ballot in person, vote, and be done with the voting for the primary right now, today. You can also go to onvote.net. And when you go to onvote.net, you can get a link at the top of the page. It says, apply for my absentee ballot. It will take you to our absentee ballot page, which then you can choose whether to download a form and mail it in, or to go through the online portal, or email a form in. Those are the 3 options online to do that. Or by mail. So those are the ways that you can request an absentee ballot. I did see that there was another question in the chat. David asked about the governor recently signing a bill allowing all felons on parole to vote when they are released from prison. Do you support this bill? And then he asked if I would support a bill about those who are incarcerated to vote. I will tell you that I do support the bill about people being out of prison and being allowed to vote. The hybrid situation that we've had for the last few years, where they had to get a pardon from the governor, is burdensome on the boards of elections. This way that we know if somebody is out of prison and they are not currently inside prison, they can register to vote. That is easier for us. It is, I think, more fair as people come out of prison, whether they're on parole or done with their sentence. They want to be part of society again. I think that's something I support. Whether I support those in prison having the right to vote, I will tell you, I do not have a position on that as of yet. I have not studied that issue enough. I know that is the logical next step that many of the advocates will take. I don't know if it is a step that I am willing to follow them on yet, but I'm not necessarily opposed to it either. Personally, I do believe that the right to vote is sacred and the right to vote should not be infringed upon. And I don't necessarily believe that the right to vote should be taken away based on criminal proceedings that have nothing to do with vote fraud or anything like that. But that is the law that's in place right now. And I haven't studied about what the effect would be if we repealed that law. So right now, I think I'm absolutely with the advocates who wanted to change it for the people out of prison, and I'm neutral on the ones that are in prison as of this moment. I want to see how this law is enacted and put in place, and I'm excited to see what that does to our voter rolls. Michael Hunter says, as a candidate, when would be the best time to audit the received absentee ballots? We are still under the old rules about absentee ballots. They will be. They will be. Oh, I forgot. Yeah, that's right. There's a first district common council primary as well. So there's that as well. So we have sent a notice out to the candidates about when we will be doing those canvassing. It'll be 7 days after the primary. It'll be done the way we did it last year. That has not changed. So it'll be 7 days after the primary. Bob asked, is this considered excuse-free absentee voting? If so, is that permanent or temporary? So the COVID excuse under temporary illness has been extended till the end of 2021. So that is, so that is in place for this election, basically making it excuse-free, but you still have to make the excuse of temporary illness on your ballot, or on your application. There will be a ballot initiative, constitutional change for the New York State Constitution on the ballot this year. It will be to change our Constitution to make it no excuse absentees, which means you will not have to give a reason for why you want an absentee going forward. If the voters pass that initiative, that will be in place for 2022 and beyond. So right now it's temporary, but there is a permanent step on its way. Dave Harding asks, Liz Cheney, the third-ranking Republican congressperson, may be replaced by Elise Stefanik of upstate New York. Yes. Cheney has, as we know, consistently stated Joe Biden has won. There is literal, if any, voter fraud. Stefanik has supported the recount in Maricopa County and amplified former President Trump's claims about election being stolen. What would Cheney being replaced by Stefanik say about the Republican leadership and their belief in our election system? Well, I think it confirms what we've been seeing all along, is that the Republican leadership, the national Republican leadership, does not hold democracy as dear as they should. They have played to this wing of the Republican Party and the former president. Whether they believe it or not in their hearts, it doesn't matter. Their actions are showing that they are complicit in this big lie that has brought death threats and all kinds of problems to election officials throughout the state or throughout the country. And this recount in Maricopa County is a joke. They said they would be done by Friday. They're not even a sixth of the way done. They are looking for things like bamboo and all kinds of conspiracy theories, all of which have been already disproven and laughed out of court. But yet the Republican legislature in Arizona has put the public money behind this recount, and then they're soliciting private money, which is not tracked or traced or released. There is no transparency to this, and they've given over 2.1 million ballots to a firm that has never done ballot counting before and has no transparency in their efforts. It is a travesty. And it is not, unfortunately, the only one. You're hearing about Michigan thinking about doing these things, and they're doing it to appease the ego of a sore loser in former President Trump, who can't accept the election results and has such sway over the primary electorate that these people are afraid of being primaried out of position. And looking what happened at Liz Cheney, that she's the daughter of a former vice president, as conservative as they come, is being replaced by somebody whose sole qualification for the job is her willingness to suck up to the former president. It's a sad state for the Republican Party. I'm not a Republican. That is something they are going to have to deal with and will be dealing with for years to come. Unfortunately, we all will be dealing with this too, as Republican-controlled states are looking to enact voter suppression and even not accepting the results of an election if a Democrat is elected, and that's the sole reason why they're not accepting it. So we have a lot of work to do. We need to pass S1, HR1, and protect the American democracy as we know it. John goes to ask, does the no excuse absentee you mentioned mean that if passed, we can vote by mail without a reason going forward? That is correct. How that will happen is a big question, because all the constitutional amendment does is remove the excuse from the process. So whether we will be automatically mailing ballots to people, or automatically mailing applications to people, or just keeping the system as is and just removing the excuse portion of the application is yet to be determined. If you have thoughts on that, you should talk to your state legislatures about getting ready to pass enabling legislation, either later this year or to take effect next year, or early in the session next year. David asks, is there any bamboo in our paper ballots? I don't know. There's no bamboo in our paper ballots that I know of. And it doesn't, the question is like, this whole thing about these bamboo is because they believe that somebody shipped in ballots and inflated the ballot count with false ballots. But your voter check-in record needs to match the number of ballots cast, which it did in Arizona, and which it does in Onondaga County. So you can't just ship in thousands of ballots and that were printed in China, and that's why they have bamboo in it, which is ridiculous, theory anyways. But it just can't happen. It would be caught. We would know it. You would know it by the hand count. You would know it by the several audits that were done already on this. It's ridiculous. It's and if you looked at my Zoom with Zarni last week with Gio from Dominion Voting, I think we talked about a lot of this stuff, and why the security measures in place are going to keep that from happening. So I'm going to get going here. I don't see any more questions in the chat. A few things going on. I talked about how my Zoom with Zarni with Gio from Dominion is up. Tomorrow I'll have a Zoom with Zarni with the DeWitt. That's Thursday. A Zoom with Zarni with the DeWitt town candidates for town office. Max Ruckteschel, Sarah Klee Hood, Joey Shirenza, Ed Makalenko, Angela Abolito, and I hope I haven't left anybody off. Oh, Sam Young for judge. They'll all be joining me, and I'm going to start transitioning my Zoom with Zarnies into candidate interviews going forward until the end of November, but I'll have a few others in there as well. Last week I did my Wonky Wednesday Town of Pompey. This week it's going to be Wonky Wednesday Town of Salina. I'm going to address that, Michael. Michael Hunter put in the chat, the objectives have shifted from overturning the past to correcting the future of voter integrity with the audits of paper to COP. I don't know what that means. But that's not true, because the objective has never been about correcting the future of voter integrity, because there is no correction needed to voter integrity. There were independent auditors that have already done this hand count. They've already had hand counts in Georgia twice. They do not respect the results. They want to overturn the future elections by putting doubt on the current election that has just happened. So no. There is no real objective here. And also, the former president, Donald Trump, has been out on his new platform talking about how this will overturn the past election. So, no, I don't buy that at all. Sorry. I like you, Michael, but that is not true. Bob asked, are there any other significant examples of voting issues changing the initial outcome of elections except for the Brindisi-Tenney race? Not really. Not really. Even in the Brindisi-Tenney race, the problems that were brought to the fold on that are starting to be addressed in the legislature. There is a bill that Senator Comrie is putting forward, calling for statewide certification of elections commissioners. After they're appointed, that they have to complete a certification course. I actually think that's a good idea. There is a There is a move to change the way we count absentee ballots. That has not happened for the primary, but may be happening for the general. There's been talks about that. So that is out there as well. There is counting absentee ballots before Election Day or on Election Day, as opposed to waiting for weeks after Election Day. So that's out there. Oh, I see. And now, Michael, you said CPU, not comp. I get that, but the computer already has a random hand audit. In New York, we have random hand audits to make sure that the ballots that are in the machine are actually being counted correctly. There's testing of these machines, bipartisan testings of these machines. I don't know exactly what's going on in Arizona in terms of that, but I know they have nonpartisan election things. Bob, you said you believe that went in favor of Republican candidate. Yeah, actually, once they counted all the votes in Oneida, Tenney actually increased her lead. The biggest problem with the Oneida thing was the people who weren't registered. We don't know how many people showed up at the polls, saw they weren't registered, and decided not to vote. That's something that we'll never know. And that's why it's a mistake, and that's why there's new commissioners there. So, yeah, but this is why I don't understand the reluctance of Republicans to just count all the votes, because in the most, we're gonna get a true outcome of the electorate, and in many cases, they really just don't know where how these votes are going to be are going to be counted, and in Oneida in New York 22, when they counted more votes, the Republican lead grew. So, these assumptions about affidavit ballots only being Democratic, the assumptions about, if you increase early voting, it's only Democratic. If you increase, absentee voting, it's only Democratic. That only happened in 2020 because there was a national push to keep people from voting absentee and early on the Republican side. Whereas traditionally in these red states, we have seen that early voting and especially absentee voting has, been pretty even of the electorate itself. And also the Republicans have dominated absentee voting before that. It's really bad logic that they're fighting all these voting reforms instead of embracing them to get the true vote in, because they will not be able to suppress their way to long-term dominance. They can only do that by subverting democracy itself, which it looks like they are fine with doing, which is a sad state, which is why H.R. 1 and S1 needs to be passed. And if we need to ditch the filibuster to do it, we should do so. And Judith says, thanks for helping our new commissioner in Oneida. I help every commissioner, any commissioner, and they help me. The commissioners work together really well, but the new commissioner in Oneida, Sarah Borman, is doing an excellent job, and she is really trying to turn that place around up there, and I think she will. And David asked, will there be an absentee ballot tracker for this year's elections in New York State? I have one in Onondaga County. It's still county by county. I don't believe that the statewide tracker will be up and running by the end of the year. I don't know if I don't think that legislation has been passed. They have the money for it, but the legislation hasn't been passed. And even if it gets passed now, they got to go through a vendor, get it all done. I doubt it'll be done by the general election. The hope is to have it up for next year's elections. All right, I got to get going. Got to get back to work. I'll see you on the flip side tomorrow. My Wonky Wednesday, Town of Salina. Thursday, Zoom with Zarni with the DeWitt Town candidates. And of course, please wear a mask. Be safe if you can. Get the shot. 12 to 15-year-olds are now being recommended to be able to get the Pfizer shot. I'm sure Moderna is not too far behind. This is good news. My son is very happy. And as soon as the appointments are open up for that, we're going to be one of the first in line because he wants to be safe along with me and my wife. So take care. and let's see if we can work together to get out of this thing. Bye-bye.